Hello everyone. In this tutorial we are going to talk about autoencoders. So let's get started. Today we are going to learn about only two types of autoencoders, deep autoencoders and convolutional autoencoders. So what exactly is autoencoder? So it is an unsupervised learning neural network because we don't need any labeled data here to compare the output because the input and the output are same here. Confused? uh, I'll just explain everything so your confusion will go off. So here if you see the architecture of this autoencoder, you can see the input is around 4 dimensions, and the next layers will be like 3 dimension and then 2 dimension and 3 dimension. These are like hidden layers, and this is the output layer. If you see, the output layer is also 4 dimension. So uh, what the goal of autoencoder is to take an input and reconstruct it back. So if you see the output layer, it is reconstructed input data. But why we need to do that? Because I know the input, and again why I need to reconstruct it, why I need to train a neural network to do that? Why don't I simply give a input data again at the output layer also? But the ultimate goal of autoencoder is completely different. We will be only considering this latent vector. This is the most important thing in the autoencoders. So I'll explain what is the latent vector. But if you see, the architecture will be in this way. So you'll be giving the input, you'll be reconstructing back it. Okay. So if you see, there will be two components here. One is encoder and the other one is decoder here. So what exactly is the encoder? So let's learn about the first component, encoder. So what is encoder? So the aim of encoder is to compress the data. So if you see, we have a 4 dimension data and we compress it to 2 dimension data here. But that 2 dimension data will be having the complete complex representation of that input data in a low dimension space. It will try to not lose any of the important information. Uh, it tries to keep all the important information in a low dimension space of the original input. So that is what the main goal of the encoder. So it will compress the data. So here it tries to find a function that maps the input data to a compressed data. So if you see the equation h, which h is like compressed data latent vector, and which equal to finding the function f of x. If you know the goal of neural networks is, you know the goal, right? What neural networks will be doing, it will try to approximate the functions. That is the reason why we call neural networks as universal approximators. So it can find any type of a function. So here also we'll be finding a function which maps the input to compressed data. So let's learn what is a latent vector here. It is the learned representation of input data in a low dimension space. uh, it tries to keep as much as information of the input data in high dimension to a low dimension data. And that low dimension will be consist that low dimension will consist of the complete learned representation, or all the complex patterns and everything. So why we need to require this? Because it helps in many ways. We can use this low dimension data to train your neural networks, which can reduce your computational costs, because we'll be having a very less parameters if you have low dimension data. And there are many other applications. I'll say what are those applications later. So that is what about the latent vector here. So we'll just learn about the decoder here. So you know the goal of autoencoder, right? To reconstruct back the input image. So the decoder will be doing that. So you'll be having an input, you'll be converted that to a low dimension space called a latent vector, and the decoder will take that latent vector as an input and reconstruct back the original data. So that is what it tries. It also tries to find the function that maps between that latent vector to reconstructed data. So you can see x cap is nothing but the reconstructed input data. Input is x, so reconstructed is x cap. We'll be just taking that. So we need to find a function g here. So when you consider the complete autoencoder, this is what it will be doing. This is what the final function will be. X cap equal to g of f of x. This f of x is an encoder, and g of encoder, like decoder of encoder, you will be finding the reconstructed input data. So, and you want to know how good your model is performing. That is very important, right? You'll be just giving input, it can reconstruct anything instead of the original input data. So to check that, to check how good your model is performing, we need to calculate the loss. And if you want your model to perform well, you need to update the weights based on the loss. So here we'll be calculating the loss uh, from input data and the reconstructed input data. So when you consider when you consider any supervised neural networks, you'll be having a label data and the predicted values. You'll be mapping those two values and you'll be finding loss. But here you'll be finding the loss between the input data and the input data itself. So we can use any kind of loss. If you see, for example, we'll be using a squared error here. X is the input data and x cap is the reconstructed image. So here we want to have a we want to find a reconstructed data which should be as close as possible to the input data. So that is what the ultimate goal also. So for that we'll be calculating the loss, and based on that loss we'll be back propagating through the network to update the weights, and this will like a cycle. We'll be passing a forward pass, and then we'll be calculating the loss, and based on the loss, and we'll be back propagating and updating the weights. And we call this loss in the autoencoder as reconstruction error. So just remember that the name reconstruction error. We want to find how bad it is performing in reconstructing the input image. So if you see the applications of autoencoders, like that's what I'm saying, the latent vector is very important in autoencoders. So you can use that for many of the applications like dimensionality reduction or anomaly or outlier detection. Of course you can remove the noise in the images or remove the noise in the data. That is what denoising is. And you can also find the word embeddings. If you know word to wake or glove, these are constructed using only the autoencoders here. So if you take a word to wake, there are two algorithms to create the word vectors, like cbow and skipgram. So in that cbow and skipgram, you will be taking only the latent vector. We also call that latent vector as a bottleneck. So we'll be taking only those bottleneck embeddings, and that will be your word embeddings in word to vec, and similar way in other algorithms as well. And we can also use that autoencoders for text summarization, and there are many other applications where you can use autoencoders. Like, these are very powerful. And if you see the types of autoencoders, we have also many: sparse autoencoder, deep autoencoder, convolutional autoencoder, denoising autoencoders, and sequence to sequence autoencoders, and variational autoencoders. So in this tutorial we'll be only talking about deep autoencoders and convolutional autoencoders, and we'll be talking about other tutorials in the other types of autoencoders in the next tutorial. Okay, then let's understand this with an example. So I'll be using MNIST dataset here, so it will be easy to understand how this is working. So when you're constructing autoencoders with very deep networks, it will take a lot of time to train your algorithms, train your models. So don't forget to uh, change the uh, runtime here, because you need to have the GPU available. Like you need to use the GPU to make your training faster. So you need to take the GPU, okay, which I already have, so I don't need to restart the runtime. Let's get back. So here I am taking the MNIST data set and then converting that data into 1D vector, because these are images which are around 28 by 28. So I need to, so when you are trying a neural networks, so you need to pass the one dimension data as an input. So that is the reason why we are converting that 28 by 28 pixel images into 784 one dimension vector. And we also normalizing the data here, because if you see, these are grayscale images and the values will be between 0 and 255. And if you take a grayscale images, few parts will be white and few parts will be black. So all the white parts will be having one value and all the black parts will be having one value. So if so let's say white is 0 and black is 255. So these two are at different scales, and it creates a problem in neural networks, training in neural networks, because if you have a normalized data, your training will be also faster and it's easy for optimization algorithms to find the optimal values. So we'll be scaling those values to between 0 and 1. So let's scale the values, and here we will be constructing the two components. Like we will be having two components, right, encoder and decoder. So first we'll be constructing the encoder part. So I'm using TensorFlow Keras functional API here. We can also create these algorithms in many ways. Like you can use Keras sequential API or subclassing API. Here we are using functional API. You can try the other two types. So here first we need to define the input shape and the input layer. So if you see, the input shape is, we already know it's a 784. So we are giving the 784 as an input, and we don't know how many values, how many images will be there. So we can just leave it as a blank. So it will take how many images it gets as an input, it will consider that value. So this is the first layer, and this layer is connected to the hidden layers. So these are the hidden layers here. These four lines are the four hidden layers. So if you see the first hidden layer, it consists of 128 nodes. That means 128 dimension, let's say. So your 784 dimension data will be converted to a 128 dimension data, and we will be using activation function relu. And for this layer, the input will be the output of the previous layer. So we will be giving the output of the previous layer here, and the next layer will be 64 dimension, and these 128 dimension data will be converted to 64. And you can see the input of this layer will be the output of the previous layer here. So in the same way, the next layer will be having 16 nodes, that is 16 dimension data, let's say. And the next layer will be a 2 dimension data. At two nodes, it will be considering a 2 nodes. So we'll consider that as a latent vector. So that is what we want to focus. So we are converting the 784 dimension data to 2 dimension data, and that is what the encoder will be doing. And if you consider the decoder, we need to reconstruct back. So that will be taking that 2 dimension data as an input here, latent vector, and then that will be connected to 16 nodes in the next layer. So the 2 dimension data will be reconstructed back to 16 dimension, and that 16 to 64, 64 to 128, and 128 to 784. So if you see, the input shape and the output shape are same, 784 dimensions. So this is where we are building the model. So for that we need to give the input layer and the output layer. So this is what the input layer is, and this is what the output layer. So we need to give that to build the model. And if you see the summary of the model, you can see you can just by seeing this you can imagine the architecture of the model. So the first layer will be 784 as an input, and then next 128, 64, 16, 2, and then again it will try to reconstruct from 2 to 16, 64, 128 and 784. So that is how so if you see this one, so you can see, let's say this is 784 and then 128, and then other layers will be there like 64, 16, and then 2 is there again, 16, 64 and 128 and 784. So this is how the architecture will be. So I'm also building an encoder model here. So if you see the input of that encoder model will be input layer, and the latent vector will be the output layer. That is what the encoder, right? So when we just print the summary of that model, you can see the input will have a 784 dimensions, and from that 128, 64, 16, and then 2 will be the output. So we'll be using this in the later part of the code. So that is the reason why I created encoder model as well. So and then we define the optimizer and the loss function. So here I am defining optimizer as Adam. You can also use any other optimizers like ADA delta or RMS prop or gradient descent. You can use anything, and loss can also be anything. So I'm using here as a mean squared error, because your input is numbers and your output is also numbers, and both the values will be between 0 and 1. So if you see, the output layer has an activation of sigmoid, so the values will be rescaled between the 0 and 1 itself. So we can see the input has the values between 0 and 1, and the output also has values in between 0 and 1. So we can use the mean squared error to calculate that. So if you see, you can also use these one also, a binary cross entropy loss or ADA delta optimizer. You can use anything. So I already trained the model, so it will take just given 100 epochs. So I already trained the model. So if I train, it will take some time. So for that I already trained the model. So if you see here, so for training you need to give the input and the output data. So the input and output are same here, so we'll be giving the train data, and the number of epochs is 100. Epoch is nothing but one pass of the complete data. A batch size is 256. So we'll be having some number of samples in the train dataset. So it will be chunked into 256. It will be chunked into batches. Each batch will be consisting of 256 samples. So if you see here, we have 235 batches, and when we pass all the 235 batches, it will be one epoch. So we'll be doing that 100 times, and you can see the loss calculated after every epoch. This is the loss of trained dataset, and this is the validation loss of a test dataset. So when we see the loss and validation loss after 100 epochs, it is like around 0.03, and it is also around 0.036. It is accepted. Both are at the same ranges, so our model is not overfitted. So let's predict the dimensions of these encoded. Sorry, I think I didn't run this. So this is where your model will be calculating the decoding dimensions, decoding images of your given input data. So X test is here. So if you see the first row of the images, these are the original input, and if you see the second row of the images, these are reconstructed images. So if you see, it reconstructed in a decent way, like 7 as 7, 2 as 2. But here if you see 4, it reconstructed it as a 9, and 4 again as a 9, and 5 as 5, 9. It did very well, actually, to be frank. So this is how you can use these autoencoders to reconstruct the images. But as I said, that is not the ultimate goal of the autoencoders. So there are many other applications for that. So for that, so we'll be seeing one of the application, the dimensionality reduction. So let's see. So let's first build with the PCA. So if you see, PCA is a linear dimensionality function, right? But when you consider these autoencoders, which are non-linear dimensionality reduction, so these are very complex and very powerful than the PCA, because it is fitting non-linear functions as well. So it works better than the linear PCA. So if you see here, we given ReLU activation functions which are non-linear. So if you give a linear activation functions here, it works same as PCA. So we need to give the non-linear to find better complex better complex patterns. So when I just visualized that one, the PCA two dimension data, so you can see how the data is spreaded over. It's really difficult to segregate the data, right? You can see how the data is random, like it's completely random. The data, all the data is at same place. Okay, so let's try to visualize how the autoencoder worked. Okay, so here I am using the encoder model to predict the X test. So I will be getting a two-dimension data here. So I will be just taking that here, and I'm just visualizing the data of the encoder function in a two-dimension data. So if you see this one, it looks far better than the PCA. Right, you can simply draw few lines, or you can just take some probability values and you can just divide the data into their separate categories. So this is you can see the advantage of autoencoder when compared to the PCA. So this is one of the application, dimensionality reduction. We'll be talking about other applications in the next tutorials. So let's see the convolutional autoencoders. So we just taken the images, right? So for the images, we are just taking that 28 by 28 pixels into one dimension data, but the neural networks will not learn the very complex patterns in the images when we used in a one dimension data. So for that we'll be using convolutional autoencoders. Like these are specially designed for images, so it can find a lot of complex patterns like lines, edges, different angled shapes, uh, and many different complex things. So this is how the convolutional neural networks looks. So you'll be having a kernels, and this is how the kernel operation will work. Like you'll be taking some kernel and you'll be just keeping that on the image, and you'll be doing the dot product and adding all those values in that matrix. You'll be getting one value here. So these kernels can be anything. So you can see the kernels here, 101 010 101. So based on these kernels it find the patterns. There are predefined kernels to find the straight lines, horizontal lines, vertical lines, curves, and everything. There are predefined kernels for that. So I'm not going deep into the convolutional networks here, so we'll be learning that in the next tutorials. And the other layer is like max pooling. So you'll be taking all that 3 by 3, you can take any dimension of the pooling layer, and you'll be taking that uh, on the matrix. And there are different type of pooling layers like max, average, min, or anything. So based on that you'll be taking the maximum value, and I'll just keep that in a other matrix. So this is how the convolutional neural networks works. I'll explain these are in detail in the next tutorials. If you already know, just if you don't know most of the if you don't know much about the convolutional neural network, you can skip this part. If you know, then you can just see. So here you can see we are just using directly the 28 by 28 pixel the data, and these are one channel. This is a gray channel. These are black and white images, so it will be having only one channel, so we will be giving one here. and and this is the architecture of the convolutional autoencoders. So this is the encoder part and this is the decoder part. So let's see this summary. Let's see the architecture of this one. So if you see the architecture of this one, so you can see the input is 28 by 28 and it will be one channel, and these are converted to 28 by 28 into 16 channels. Right, you will be giving the kernels here because you had given 16 kernels of 3 by 3 images. Sorry, 3 by 3 matrix, you will be giving 16 kernels. So this is how it will be converted to 14. The 28 by 28 will be converted to 14 by 14, and you will be doing max pooling there. So sorry, these 28 by 28 into one channel will be converted back to 28 by 28 into 16, and that will be, you will be using a 3 by 3 max pooling, so it will be converted to 14 by 14, and you again will be using the max pooling 7 by 7. And so this is how the architecture looks. So I already trained the algorithm. I trained around 200 epochs here, so you can, it took a lot of time, so I'm not training again, so you can try that. So when I just visualized that, uh, it is not looking better, but if we train for more time or if we add more layers, it works better than the normal deep autoencoders. So you can see, so when you see the 4 in the deep autoencoders, it reconstructed it as 9, but if you see, it reconstructed it as 4 here. 0 is almost 0, 1 is 1, 2 is also like 2, 7 is 7, and if you see 4 again here, if you train for more time, it will definitely predict this into 4. If you see 5 is also like exactly the same shape, and 9 is also like the same one. So this is how the importance of convolutional neural network when it comes to uh, convolutional autoencoders when you are trying to reconstruct the image data, right? Yes, that is for this tutorial. I hope everyone learned something, and thank you so much for watching this tutorial. Hope you like it. If you really like what I am doing, then please subscribe to our channel and please hit that like button, so it motivates us to do more videos. And thank you so much for watching this tutorial. Good day.